Yeah.
So far this college football season, every week has outdone the previous week. Whether it be because of crazy upsets, crazy finishes, or just unbelievable or historic performances, this college football season has been insane. It's been unpredictable. It's been full of twists and turns every single week. And we're expecting more of the same going into week 7. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, bringing you our 5 biggest games of week 7, sharing our analysis on each of these games and sharing our official predictions on each of these games. And we're just going to go ahead and dive right into it, guys. I'll be quite honest with you. We know what the game of the week is going to be. We know the biggest game of week 7. It's right here at the bottom between Georgia and Alabama. And we will get to that here at the end of this video. Outside of that, though, it was relatively difficult to find some big games in week 7. For the first time this season, we don't have that many ranked versus ranked matchups. Alabama-Georgia is the only ranked versus ranked matchup this season. Another big game, the primetime ABC game between Baylor and Oklahoma State. That game was canceled due to coronavirus. Can't put that one up here. So we struggled to find 4 other big ones that might be big, whether it's big within their conference or big on the national stage. But I think we did a pretty good job with all 5 of these games up here being very entertaining and some must-see football. Let's start with the first one. Friday night, not Saturday, Friday night. The 15th ranked BYU Cougars travel to Houston, the Cougar Battle, for a very, very exciting and underrated matchup. Now, we put this game up here for tons of reasons, one of which is because BYU has kind of been the talk of college football over these past few weeks because they have dominated their opponents. They've outscored their opponents this year, 4 of them, 175 to 44. They're averaging 43.8 points per game. They're allowing just 11 points per game. Now, oddly enough, last week BYU was a 34-point favorite against Texas San Antonio and only defeated the Roadrunners by 7. So one could call that a lackluster performance. Either BYU was not on top of their game, or Texas San Antonio and Jeff Traylor are a lot better than we thought. But regardless, this is going to be a game where the Cougars are hoping to bounce back and exert some dominance and be a little more physical than Houston and show that maybe last week was a bit of a fluke and they're going to get back to punishing their opponents like we saw in their first 3 games. BYU is led by their star quarterback, Zach Wilson, who in 4 games has completed 81.2% of his passes. He has an 81.2% completion percentage for over 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He's leading an offense that averages 556.8 yards per game. Unbelievable, guys. Many people ask, is BYU for real? They're absolutely for real. They're 15th in the country, and there's a very good chance they could run the table and go undefeated. Unfortunately, they're not going to be able to make the playoff due to their strength of schedule. We say they could go undefeated. Houston could stand in their way. The Cougars of Houston finally got to play their first game of 2020 last week when they took down Tulane 49-31. The crazy thing is Houston trailed in that game 24-7. After that point, the Cougars outscored them 42-7 to win by 18 points. So a very great turnaround for Dana Holgorsen and this team. This offense is going to be the best that BYU has faced this season. Great quarterback in Clayton Tune, a great wide receiver in Marquez Stevenson. So you've got a quarterback and wide receiver duo that's going to be very, very tough for this BYU defense to stop. But to me, the key in this game is defense across the board. BYU's got a great offense. Houston's got a great offense. Which defense is going to step up? And that's going to be BYU's. The team that's allowing just 11 points per game. Keep in mind, this is a Houston team that had 5 turnovers last week against Tulane as well. So you look at the turnovers for Houston, kind of the sloppy play. I get it was just their first game, but we saw a lot of this last year too. BYU comes away with at least 2 turnovers in this one. Zach Wilson has a field day against this Houston defense. Maybe it's closer than expected. There are going to be a lot of points scored in this game, but BYU escapes Houston with a victory, wins the Cougar Bowl, if you want to call it that. They improved to 5-0 in 2020. We now move on to the SEC matchup, LSU and Florida. This was one that is a little bit lackluster in my opinion. This was one that back when the season began, everybody was hyped for it. It's going to be down in the swamp. This is a game between two SEC powers, potentially a top 10 matchup. And we've got unranked LSU and number 10 Florida. Number 10 Florida is fine, even though they're coming off that devastating loss to Texas A&M last week. The Gators very well could be a top 4 team in the country had they defeated the Aggies. But here we are with a game that is really a bigger game for Florida than it is for LSU, because remember, the Tigers are now 1-2. Their first 1-2 start since 1994. Florida's coming off the loss to A&M. And if Florida loses this game, they can almost kiss their SEC championship hopes goodbye. They can certainly kiss their college football playoff hopes goodbye, because that would be their second loss of the year and in back-to-back weeks. But they could kiss their title hopes goodbye regardless of what happens in Tuscaloosa on Saturday night. I know they still have to play Georgia, but if Georgia beats Alabama, they are certainly gone. So this is a huge game for Florida. LSU is just looking to play spoiler because their season in terms of title hopes are absolutely over. Absolutely over. 7 of the last 10 games between Florida and LSU, though, have been decided by one possession. I might expect another one here on Saturday afternoon. You should also expect a high-scoring affair because no defense is going to be played in this game. The reason Florida lost last week to A&M, the reason LSU has lost 2 games this season to Mississippi State and Missouri is because neither defense, or LSU's defense especially, has not showed up. The Tigers are allowing 32 points per game and 494.7 yards per game. They got burned by Connor Bazelak at Missouri last week. And just think about it. If you just got burned by Connor Bazelak, what's Kyle Trask going to do to you? What is Kyle Trask, a guy that's thrown for 996 yards, 14 touchdowns, and just 1 interception this season, what's he going to do to you in that secondary? You were burned by KJ Costello, who's not looking that good anymore. You were burned by Connor Bazelak. Kyle Trask is absolutely better than both of them. Florida has home field advantage in this one. And you look at the defense here, guys. Which one's going to step up? I think it has to be the Gators. They've got the home field advantage on their side. They faced a tougher test last week in Texas A&M than LSU did in Missouri. I have to believe that Todd Grantham and Dan Mullen, while you might not see a drastic change defensively, you will see just enough to pressure Miles Brennan, force an interception off of him, and in a high-scoring game, maybe very well could be a one-possession game yet again, the Gators escape the swamp with a crucial victory when it comes to their hopes of title hopes and championships across the board. This is a big game for Florida, and I think they answer the call and get the win. LSU, the reigning national champions, dropped to 1-3. We have a Group of 5 matchup up here on the board, and we don't normally do that. We don't normally talk Group of 5 football. Nothing against them. It's just usually we have a lot more ranked versus ranked matchups and some big games to talk about. This week, we do not, and even if we did, I think this UCF-Memphis game would still be up here because this game is huge when it comes to who might make the American Athletic Conference championship game. The loser of this game will have their second conference loss. And remember, the AAC is not doing divisions this year. They're done with divisions, as a matter of fact. So it's just the top 2 teams in the league go to the championship game. The loser of this game can almost write their ticket out of it. You might not know this. It's kind of hard to believe considering how well Memphis has been in recent years, but UCF has won 13 straight games over Memphis. UCF has won 13 straight games over the Tigers. That includes 4 wins between the 2017 season and the 2018 season. 2 of those wins coming in the conference championship game. So this is a huge, huge game here for a Central Florida team that lost to Tulsa, snapped that 21-game home winning streak, and a Memphis team that's coming off a heartbreaking loss on the road against SMU. So they've lost 13 straight games to the Knights. Is Memphis due for a win? I'm saying no. I am siding with the Knights in this one. Look at the numbers here, guys. Defensively is going to be a key in this one, kind of like LSU Florida. A lot of points will be scored. Defense practically non-existent. When you look at the numbers, the defense is very, very even. Very, very even defensive numbers here. But Memphis, to me, has the worst stat in the category that matters the most in this game, and that's when it comes to passing. The Tigers are allowing 386.5 passing yards per game. And that's just in 2 games. Against SMU in Arkansas State. Almost 400 passing yards per game from those two teams. They're now facing Dillon Gabriel, a guy that's thrown for over 1,100 yards this season, 9 touchdowns, and just 2 interceptions. He is a very dangerous quarterback. I would rank him up there as one of my top 15 quarterbacks in the country. UCF lost their game to Tulsa. They've struggled a little bit this season because they've beat themselves up. The penalties have been unbelievable from the Knights. The turnovers, very, very bad from the Knights as well. They correct those. That's coaching, especially with the penalties. That's coaching. You correct those, UCF might not lose to Tulsa. They're ranked at this point, and many people would have to say more of a shoe-in for the Knights. This is no shoe-in. This is no guarantee. But I like Josh Heupel's squad here to get the job done. They have owned Memphis for many, many games now, and I know some of those are outside of when UCF and Memphis got really, really good. But a lot of them have come in the recent years, and UCF has answered the call, whether it's in Orlando or whether it's in Memphis. I like Dillon Gabriel and Josh Heupel to come back angry, hungry to avenge that loss to Tulsa. Their hopes of a New Year's Six bowl game are still not dashed. They win this, they can still get to the American Athletic Conference Championship game. They can still win it. Same for Memphis. But I like the Knights to get the job done. A little bit more explosive offensively, a little bit more balanced offensively than Memphis right now. And UCF's defense is one that is consistently underrated. They make enough plays to get the win on the road. Moving on again to the ACC. Let's talk Boston College, Virginia Tech. Never thought that this would be one of our games of the week going, a couple weeks ago. Never would have thought I would say, Week 7, Boston College, Virginia Tech. That's the game you need to see. But here we are. And oddly enough, this is a must-see game for me because of Boston College, more so than Virginia Tech. Because Boston College has exceeded expectations already in year 1 under Jeff Hafley. The Eagles are 3-1. And keep in mind, Boston College has won the past 2 games against Virginia Tech. But the Eagles are 3-1 this season. An unbelievable start for Hafley in a year that was so much turnover offensively and defensively as well. Brand new head coaching staff. Not many people had high expectations for them. But a major reason why Boston College is thriving this season and doing so well is because they have finally found themselves a quarterback, something that for many years Steve Adazio was unable to do. They've got a guy named Phil Jurkovec, the transfer from Notre Dame, who's already thrown for nearly 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns, and just 2 interceptions. The problem is, Jurkovec is the Boston College offense. Steve Adazio, they didn't have much of a quarterback, but they had a heck of a run game year in and year out, most of the time. It's kind of the opposite. Pretty decent passing game for the Eagles, horrible run game. Boston College only averaging 60.3 rushing yards per game. Now look at Virginia Tech across the board. They're a team that, yes, absolutely deserves to be ranked. They're coming off a heartbreaking loss to North Carolina, falling in that game by 11. But let's keep in mind that the Hokies are 2-1 with 2 wins, 1 loss against North Carolina, a good North Carolina team, now number 5 in the country. And they have been in those games, every single one of them, without some key players, all out due to COVID-19, without some key coaches, all out to COVID-19, and they have battled. They've won 2 of those games and battled consistently against North Carolina. They battled so much adversity this season, and to me are exceeding expectations. Imagine what Virginia Tech could be like if they were at full strength. They are led by the running back, Khalil Herbert, who's averaging 10.2 yards per carry this season, 450 yards and 5 touchdowns already this year. Transfer running back from Kansas. So the 2 key players in this game are both transfers, ironically. The team as a whole is averaging 299.3 rushing yards per game. And I look at this, guys, every single week, Virginia Tech is getting stronger. Every single week, Virginia Tech is getting healthier and healthier. Players and coaches are coming back. It's not going to be too much longer until they're at 100% strength. And that's when things are going to get real. The games in Blacksburg, Boston College, every win for them outside of the Duke season opener has been close. Narrowly escaping Texas State, narrowly escaping Pittsburgh thanks to a missed PAT in overtime. Every game has been close for Boston College except for that Duke game. I think you see a relatively blowout win here for Virginia Tech. They win this game by at least 10 points over the Eagles. The defense flexes their muscles, and Khalil Herbert goes off yet again against the Eagles. And then finally, guys, the biggest game of the week, maybe the biggest game of the year. It's our game of the week, so tomorrow, stay tuned. We are going to have deeper analysis on Alabama and Georgia coming your way on Saturday night, the primetime CBS game. So again, more analysis on this coming out tomorrow, our big game of the week, but we're going to touch on it briefly here. It's week 7, and you're getting a top 3 matchup. Not top 5, not top 10, top 3. Number 3, Georgia. Number 2, Alabama. So many big storylines here. The first one, let's just go down the list. First one, Alabama has won 5 straight against Georgia. That includes 2 wins against the Bulldogs in a span of about 11 months. They won the national championship in January of 2018, 2nd and 26, as we all know. A few months later, in the actual 2018 season, they beat Georgia in the SEC championship game, where Jalen Hurts came in for Tua Tagovailoa and led the Crimson Tide to a victory over Georgia and kept the Bulldogs out of the college football playoff. That's the first storyline. Bama's won 5 straight. Second one, will this be the game where Nick Saban finally falls to a former assistant? Keep in mind, he is 21-0 against former assistant coaches. That includes last week's victory over Ole Miss, where he defeated Lane Kiffin 63-48. Problem with that game for Alabama was against Lane Kiffin, they allowed 647 yards of offense. One of the worst defensive performances I have ever seen from a Nick Saban-led team. The good thing for Alabama, we're about to get to Georgia, the good thing for Alabama is their offense is dang near unstoppable. 723 yards against Ole Miss, lit up Texas A&M the week before that, lit up Missouri the game before that. They're averaging 51 points per game. Mac Jones, the quarterback, already has 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns on the year. So the major storyline here, Nick Saban assistants, Alabama's recent success, but if you want to look at the actual game itself, it's Alabama's offense versus Georgia's defense. The top-ranked defense in the country, the Georgia defense that's allowing just 12.3 points per game. A defense that's allowing just 38.3 rushing yards per game, including allowing just -1 rushing yards to Tennessee last week. That's your storyline. Can Alabama move the ball at home against one of the best defenses, if not the best defense, in the entire country? I think they can. But man, is it going to be close. This was such a difficult game to pick. You have no idea. But I do think that Mac Jones is able to make just enough plays through the air. Alabama, I don't think will be able to run the ball against Georgia. 38.3 rushing yards per game. Are you kidding me? That's ridiculous. Unbelievable stats by the Bulldogs. Najee Harris had over 200 yards and 5 touchdowns against Ole Miss last week. That's not happening this week. I think Alabama will be lucky if Harris can eclipse 100 yards in this game. That might even be pushing it. But I do think Mac Jones and these wide receivers are going to be able to make enough plays. This is obviously the toughest offensive test that Georgia's defense will have faced this season. There's no doubt about that. This is obviously going to be the toughest test that Alabama has faced this season, both offensively and defensively. Very, very evenly matched game here. But I look at a couple other key things here. On top of that, I think Alabama makes enough plays. I like they've got a slight home field advantage. It's very difficult to win in Tuscaloosa. It's very difficult to win there at night. I look at Stetson Bennett, a guy who's impressed me as Georgia's quarterback, having already thrown for 5 touchdowns this season, doing a very good job. Guy that we didn't think would be the starting quarterback for Georgia just a few weeks ago. But he's making his first career road start in Tuscaloosa. He's lucky it's not going to be a fully sold-out crowd. That would further enforce my point of picking Alabama here. I'd feel a little more comfortable with that. The fact that it's not going to be a true home field advantage still makes me up in the air. But I'm siding with the Crimson Tide. This is Nick Saban we're talking about here, and you will not see the same type of defensive performance that you saw last week. You will not see an abysmal defensive performance from Alabama like you saw last week against Ole Miss. For 2 reasons. 1, Nick Saban's going to fix it. And 2, Georgia's offense is not Ole Miss's offense. Not to say Ole Miss is better, but Georgia is not going to move as fast and not be nearly as explosive as Ole Miss was last week. So in a game that's a little bit more slower paced, a game that's certainly a lot lower scoring than we saw between Alabama and Ole Miss last week, I believe Nick Saban remains undefeated against his former assistants. The offense makes just enough plays. Alabama's defense steps up, picks off Stetson Bennett for the first time this season. And Alabama escapes with a narrow one-possession victory. This game will not be decided by more than a touchdown, in my opinion. But it's Nick Saban and the Tide that get the job done at their home stadium. If it was in Athens, I might be leaning towards the Dogs. This game's so close, but I'm rolling with the Tide. So guys, there you have it, your top 5 games of Week 7. Again, it was a tough week. Only one ranked versus ranked matchup, but it's going to be the best game, arguably, of the year. At least it is as of right now. As it stands, number 3, number 2, you're in store for the best game of the year. We'll see if it plays out that way. So we are very blessed to have that. Plenty of other great games to keep your eye on. These 4, countless others that we don't even have up here on the board. You're guaranteed one top 10 team to lose. You're guaranteed one top 25 team to lose. I guarantee there will be a lot more because this is college football, and this is college football in 2020. Every week has outdone itself so far. So even in a week that we think will be a little bit more lackluster than Week 6 or Week 5, they're probably going to come out and surprise us and be the wildest week yet. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. And if you love college football, you need to check out everything down in that description below. We've got exclusive content everywhere you can think of. Our website with our exclusive newsletter and our expert picks, all of our against the spread picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Make sure to sign up for those. Make sure to check out our social media pages. Make sure to check out our Patreon account. All of that giving you year-round college football content that you will not want to miss. So make sure to go check it out right there, down in the description. Do it. Check it out. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.